One of the things that I say all the time of visibility equals possibility. When I was homeless in the car, I didn't see who I was going to be to this day. It's one of the reasons why I tell my story. Folks can say, hey, Shawn was in this place and he didn't give up and he kept pressing forward. And so now he's there, right? And that's that possibility of being visible and showing that possibility. And folks can keep pressing forward and know, hey, one day I'm going to get there. I don't know how the hell I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there, right? Just to be that beacon of, yo, you can get to this place.
Hello, and welcome to the Power Beyond Pride. We are a weekly queer change-making podcast bringing you voices and ideas from across our beautiful and fabulous fierce spectrum to transform our world. My name is Mattie Bynum. I am one of your beautiful hosts for this evening. We typically say a bio about ourselves, so I'll say this. I am the loudest person in the room at all times. Whether it's laughing, talking, or singing, even off key, I will always sing at the top of my lungs. That is who I am, and I am joined here today by my beautiful co-host, Mr. Shane himself, and I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm gonna sing along with you because I do that too.
Hey.
I'm Shawn Aaron, and I am a owner and creative strategist for A Great Idea. I'm a lifelong harm reductionist, and I am also a secret Kit Kat hoarder. That is the other thing that I do. I don't tell anybody. I do put them in the back of the freezer. Now that I've told that secret, though, I feel, now I got to find a better place to hold them. We are your co-hosts on today's Queercast journey. Today, we get a chance to spend some time with Shawn Aaron. And he's the founder and executive director of Dem Bois Inc. He's an organizer, advocate for gender-affirming care and surgeries for trans men of color. And as a trans man of color, Shawn uses his experience and journey to understand and continuously motivate himself, as well as others, to always advocate for others who are seeking similar care. Welcome, Shawn. It's so great to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm so glad to be here.
So listen to that. That is West Coast vibe. If ever there's West Coast vibe, that intro was all West. Like I'm coming in all East Coast and Midwesty, and I'm like, I'm on it. I'm out there. And then like Shawn's going to be like, hey, I'm here to hang out. You know what?
I've heard that before.
Like he's like Isaac Hayes. He's just smooth and mellow, just sliding right on in, and you didn't even know he was there.
When are you going to be an NPR announcer? That's the role, Shawn. That's it right there. Ooh. That is that voice. That is that, right? Am I right? Yeah. That's the, and this Sunday afternoon, we'll be paying attention to, that is, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to record you and I'm going to fall asleep to you. That's what it's going to be, is I'm going to record you and you're going to make me have the best dream. So welcome, Shawn. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. I've heard that before too. So this is just me. I'm a real chill kind of guy.
I'm glad finally we got somebody else that has a smooth voice. Because you remember I told you in that one episode I was voted most likely a sex phone operator in high school. So finally I'm not the smoothest person on this conversation. So I will gladly take it, Shawn. And with that being said, first off, before we get any further, I just want to give a round of applause. Congratulations on wrapping season 3 of your podcast at the end of August. Amazing finale. I will tell you, I have been binge listening since season 1 for the past few days, and I thoroughly enjoy it, and I love it. I definitely want to ask, how has it been starting your podcast, going through season 1, season 2? Because I love how you introduce it on your Instagram, on your social media, when you say that most podcasts only make it 5 episodes, and now here you are finishing up season 3. So how does that feel?
Well, I want to say at first it feels like a blessing, and it was something that happened by accident. I didn't mean for it to get this far. My goal wasn't to set out to start a podcast. So the idea that I've been in community with other trans men of color and telling their stories and even telling my story. So if you've been binge listened to season 1, you're hearing all of my tea. So I'm telling all of my business. So folks get to hear a lot about who I am, what I've been through, how I raised my child, like all of these things, right? And so it feels like a blessing to be sitting here in this space and saying, hey, we're getting ready to start season 4 in October of 2025. And so I'm really excited. So it's a blessing.
Amazing. Hopefully we can get to that place too with Power Beyond Pride. Look, my goal is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons. But definitely, like I said, congratulations.
Thank you.
What's the one takeaway? What's the one lesson you feel like you were like, when I went into this, I wasn't sure people were going to, how I was going to respond to this, or how people were going to react, or what this process was going to be like? What's the one thing that you were like, now that I'm 3 seasons in, my mind is blown. There's no way I could have foreseen.
My own healing journey, really. I did not, a lot of the things that I spoke on in some of the episodes, I've never said out loud before, right? And to know that I've said some of these things for the world to hear, I think that my healing journey is something that I did not expect. And just for me to be so authentic in the way that I have been. It's so open and honest. I always say, people say, oh, I'm honest, I'm open, I'm honest. But then when it come down to you asking them a question, they lying, right? And so just to be like, yo, I really, everything you hear me say, every story you hear me tell, especially in my own journey, I can't speak for other folks, right? It's just that this was my healing journey. It really was. And so that's the one thing that I wasn't expecting to receive throughout all of these episodes.
Do you think like people around you made that possible? Was that part of what made that? Because it's also, you're talking about the public seeing it, which is, I can say a lot to my now that I have a barber, because I have hair for a minute. Now, like that, like people, you could tell your bartender, you could tell people things because they're kind of, there's amorphous out there, right? But there's people in your life who you get to know. So do you feel like it took you also part of that journey to get to a place where you felt like you had people around you who would not only see that and hear it, but also recognize and honor it?
You know what? You mean in chosen family or friends, or what do you mean by that?
Any of the above. I mean, we don't
Mhm.
live in a vacuum, right? We live with the people around.
I'm gonna be real honest with you. So I want to say that I think that a lot of my folks that's in my life haven't really heard it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So what I think, well, maybe intimate partners but if I'm thinking about, I talk a lot about my mother in these episodes and how my mother's physical abuse and verbal abuse shaped who I am and shaped the trajectory of my life, and even being homeless. And I honestly don't think she's heard any of it. I do have an aunt who listened to some of the episodes, especially my homelessness episode. And she was like, yo, I let your grandma hear it. So my grandmother heard it, the homelessness episode. And my aunt said, I have never seen tears in grandma's eyes ever until after she listened to that episode. And for her to be like, yo, your mama need to hear this. But honestly, I don't know if my mom's have ever heard it. I never asked her. And I honestly don't care, because this is my healing process. And I don't need to ask for permission for my healing. And so whether she hears it or she does it, that's fine. I'm still on this healing journey, and I'm still here to share my story, still here to be authentic and honest and open. And I'm here to share other folks' stories, regardless of who listens to it or not. So.
No, very powerful and absolutely true. And sometimes you could say it right to their face and they're still not going to hear it, right? So you're bringing it into the room and you're sharing it to people who do need to hear it. And again, I think that's a testament to your work. And having founded and being the executive director of Dem Bois, which is an organization, for those listening, that advocates for access to gender-affirming care, can you give us a little insight into that journey, into how you brought that into the world and how that's affected your life up to this point?
Yeah, so I began Dem Boys after my own medical transition. And I had privilege in my transition. And I mentioned this a lot on the show. And I wasn't surrounded by other trans folks. So I just thought everybody's journey was the same. I don't know. I don't know if I was oblivious or I was just in my own little bubble because I hadn't been exposed to as many people. But I was like, oh, this is how it goes for everybody. Right. And when I got to the end, I was like, wait a minute, this is not how it works out for everybody. And it was really an eye-opening experience, really. I was like, wait a minute. So I did a lot of research and wait, other trans men not getting this stuff? Wait, and especially trans men of color? Wait a minute. And so I had this idea. I talked to my partner at the time. I was like, what if I could create a space where other folks can feel as much joy and pleasure as I'm feeling going through this process, with not having to worry about the financial aspects of transitioning if they choose to? And it was that support I got in that moment of, yeah, why not do that? Right. And so that's how Dem Boys was formed, and just being this conduit for folks to get access to gender affirming care, regardless of their financial, what they have or do not have in their pockets. So.
I mean, I love that you have it, because to piggyback off of what you said, I remember going when I first started transitioning, and I didn't say first started transitioning, but when I started hormone therapy, I never forget having a conversation with my doctor about gender affirming care. And then when we got into the situation of where we are now, climate wise, with the administration, I remember asking my doctor, I was like, so what's going to happen with people and with like me and different people who are on hormone replacement therapies and different things. And she was like, well, you're one of the lucky ones. And that really stuck out in my head when she said that. And I was like, why would you say I'm a lucky one? And she's like, well, you have other medical issues, so I can just write it up to where it won't look like gender affirming care and it won't affect you. And I remember leaving the doctor that day and I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, why would I be a lucky one though? And what you said and learning about who you are, Shawn, researching your company and getting to know you, I love what you're doing because there are a lot of people out there who don't have the same access, who don't even have the same hope to get the access that some of us do have and some of us do get. And I think it's beautiful how you share your story and share your company, your business, your foundation and the things that it does to help people. But with all that it is helping and going on, what are some of the ripple effects do you think that people will see who don't get access to that? And if the government is able to completely block gender affirming care, where is that going to take us? Yeah, it was a heavy question.
I think that was heavy. And it's one of the things that I say all the time of visibility equals possibility. And one of the things that I'm always saying is that regardless if you get gender affirming surgeries or care or not, it does not block your joy. It shouldn't block who you're going to be in, your journey, right? You can still show up. Yes, it's difficult. And I can't say that it's not difficult because I'm not in that place. But I try to be this beacon that folks can be like, hey, because when I was homeless in the car, I didn't see who I was going to be to this day, right? But if somebody can say, hey, and it's one of the reasons why I tell my story, but folks can say, hey, Shawn was in this place and he didn't give up and he kept pressing forward. And so now he's there, right? And that's that possibility of being visible and showing that possibility. And folks can keep pressing forward and know, hey, one day I'm gonna get there. I don't know how the hell I'm gonna get there, but I'm gonna get there, right? And so it's just to be that beacon of, yo, you can get to this place. And I've recently had somebody reach out to me via email and said that they had just found a podcast and they listened to my homelessness episode and they said they were currently homeless. And they said the whole time they were listening to the episode, all they could do was cry. But they knew that if I could do it, that one day that they wouldn't be in that place. And so I feel like that's what these stories are about. And that's what me being authentic is all about, right? Of like showing folks that regardless of what's going on, hey, listen, these policies, Trump, presidency, none of that stuff can really stop who you really are and who you really are going to be if you don't let it. So
it's such a powerful idea around you sharing your story of facing living in your car and this sort of conversation around what it meant for our many queer community members, those of varying gender identities and expressions, orientations, all across the gamut. The numbers basically say how robust the numbers are for young people who find themselves unhoused because they face either hostility, harassment, across communities. Do you see that happen and be like, why can't we talk about this more? Do you see that in the community where you have a lot of impact, where you're doing a lot of sharing of transmasc stories? Do you see even an appetite there? Because I feel like every time I see different communities in conversation, whether, again, that's among the trans plus communities, whether that's among people in non-binary identities and across different communities, nobody talks very often about housing. Nobody talks a lot about that conversation, even though it's not it is the trajectory of many EP. And I feel like we just don't want to talk about it. Do you feel like that's something that you're still seeing? Do you feel like that there's something that we can change?
absolutely. I do still see that. And I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be honest with you. Even for me, it's hard to talk about. Even just hearing you say it gets me emotional because it's still something that I'm working through that literally shaped who I am today. So it's very hard to talk about. And so I think that's just the nature of it, right, folks? I've been through that. I don't want to talk about that no more. And like people don't tend to talk about it. But I will say that in the background, outside of the podcast, outside of the organization, and housing is not something that the organization necessarily is our mission, but in the background, we do help folks sometimes to secure housing, or I've done fundraising for folks to secure housing. So because I have that personal experience and I know how that feels to be unhoused, and while that's not our mission, sometimes that's the work that I tend to lean towards outside of the org, outside of the podcast. So even though it's not being talked about, and which it should be talked about more publicly, the work is still being done kind of in the background.
Do you think mutual aid is a good solution for that? Do you think we should be looking at more mutual aid initiatives?
We absolutely should. I think that one of the things I will say that I try to do, and I'm going to reflect a little bit on, I did a 30-day reflection series on YouTube. And one of the episodes was a letter that I wrote to my mother. And it was called Dear Mama. I can't remember what day it was. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been day 27. I'm not sure. But one of my goals with that was, and this was a deep part of my healing, is I wrote a letter to my mother about how I felt about her putting me out. And my idea was behind it, not just for trans folks to hear that story of me and my liberation of me telling my mother how I felt, but for parents to hear that. And somebody who was a parent actually reached out to me and said, I had no idea that a parent would do that to their child. So it's also not just a message for the unhoused folks, but it's a message for folks for parents, right? And I think that's where my voice is too. And I'm a parent. I'm a father. I raised a child. My child is 28 years old, right? And I couldn't imagine, right, putting my child out for any reason, right? And so I think that's also my work too. It's not, I'm coming from a child's perspective, and I'm no longer a child, but I've had that experience as a child. But I'm also coming from a parent's point of view. And hey, if you want some lessons on how to meet your child with a little bit more empathy, I'm here too for that. So I think it's kind of two-sided, right?
And you're right. And I think it goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about a while ago about being able to talk about our experiences, being able to live through our experiences and be able to share those experiences. It's the same thing with parenting. I know I always tell people, don't be afraid to communicate because you never know what someone else is thinking. You might be having the same conversation internally, but you're scared to say something and you're scared to say something. And then you don't understand why there's a big fallout. So I say all that to say, people, as we go to break, communicate with each other. Do not be afraid to tell your story. Do not be afraid to hear people's stories. Don't be afraid to even just say, how are you feeling? And truly mean, how are you feeling? What's going on? Because you never know. But with that being said, we'll be right back after this quick break that we will be taking with Power Beyond Pride, and we'll see you on the next time. Welcome back to Power Beyond Pride. I am sitting here with the amazing Shawn. I do want to go back to season 1 of your podcast, and I am going to get very specific for 2 seconds because I told you I've been low-key stalking you and listening.
Ooh,
But
yeah.
in season 1, episode 3, you talk about a point in your life where you had to make a choice, either to continue your story or was your journey over. And you said that you knew then that your story hadn't been done, your story wasn't finished, that you had more to live. So I'm curious into knowing that when you made that choice to keep living, how did it help you then and how has it shaped your life now?
I know what you're talking about. Ooh. In that moment, like I said earlier, I had no idea that I was going to be 44-year-old Shawn. I'm 44 years old. I'm about to be 45. I can't say how that moment actually shaped me. Only thing that I can say is that I was like, oh, the universe said there is something for you. And I've been searching for years. I was searching for, okay, universe, you said there was something for me. What is it? What is it? But it helped me to stay focused. It helped me to stay motivated because I knew there was this purpose. I hadn't figured it out yet. I didn't figure it out until Dem Bois Inc. I didn't figure it out until Dem Bois podcast. And so that was a long time in between, right? And so I've been pressing forward, trying to figure it out. So I just want to say that's probably just been my compass, really, right? Of just finding where I'm supposed to be in this world and in this life and what I'm supposed to do. I'm here, right? And so I've been blessed to age. I know folks that didn't make it, right? And so just like, I have something to fulfill. I have a purpose. I have something that I'm supposed to do. Universe just guide me and tell me what it is that I'm supposed to do. And I'm just going to keep, as they say in the old church ties, it's marching your steps or whatever they say, the church. So it's right. And so it's just been my compass to just keep pressing forward, keep moving forward.
As you've talked with other people, thank you for sharing that too, because it's a purpose, I think, is a great word to encapsulate, right? Like that feeling, especially in a world that is not built to thrive, right? That has so many systems stacked against, that has so much, I would say, again, when you think about your family's inability to see and honor you for who you are, all of these things, like being able to experience all of those things, purpose becomes a big challenge. Like for young people who are straddled with that, right? Like that
Mhm.
becomes a difficult thing. Cause I always think of purpose a little bit as I see a future with me in it, right? That's one of the biggest, I think one of the biggest things that many young people I've
Mhm.
met, and I came out very young, I came out at 17, and I lost many people along the way. And oftentimes I think one of the biggest challenges has been purpose, that I don't know that I see a future. I don't know what a future like this looks like for me. And I think it's really testament in what you're doing is that you're saying, while there is a purpose, in fact, your program is there to help people live into the bodies and into the ways and their agency in ways that they might not have even expected. But are there things other people can do to sort of drive some of that conversation home? Are there ways that you've learned as you've heard other people's stories and other people as they have come to their senses of purpose and they've come to their versions of what a future looks like with their ability to impact their communities? Is there anything that has really impacted you and given you different insights since that from listening to other people?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was finding community. The episode that you mentioned, I didn't have any community. I was just ostracized. I was alone, except for the partner that I was homeless with in the car. But I didn't have any friends. I wasn't communicating with my birth family. I didn't have anybody really. It was just me and her. And so anybody outside of that, it just was non-existent. I didn't work because I was ashamed of how I looked and maybe if I smelled or and so I didn't have community. And so I think that once I was able to be like, yo, no, I'm here for the long haul. And I was able to really find community and people that love me. And the first thing to do was get rid of her. That was the first thing. And then I was open to, I don't want to say it like that, but sometimes you have to grow. And
No,
I had that awakening moment, yeah, I had that awakening moment, but she didn't get the memo. And so, right. And so that would have been my downfall had I continued to move in the direction with her. But I had to really find community. And once I found community, I saw other alternatives of living and other alternatives of life and what happiness could look like for me. And to be honest, I didn't know I do therapy on a weekly basis. I just had therapy today. And I just started therapy 2 years ago. And I always was like, I'm chasing happiness. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it feels like. I don't know what it tastes like. But I know I see it. I see other people being happy. Right. And so it was just really finding my community and being like, I don't know what that is, but I want that. And as long as I keep pressing forward, I'm going to get there. And so I think that has been the source of everything.
Do you feel like when you see activists have conflict, because I see that a lot, because community is wonderful, but I also see when you start getting communities together, especially again, those working towards social movements or those who just come together because they represent an experience that no one else can understand. It's just something that this us and a small group can understand. Do you feel like the conflict in it sometimes feels like frustrating because you're like, this feels petty and you're missing the point of what it is we're trying to do? I guess it's something I see a lot among activists is that we lose sight of how important that community is and that at the center of it is this idea that means many oftentimes need to have a space where other people see us and they value it.
Oh, yeah. I see that conflict. I think that folks will say, well, what about us over here? Or what about us over here? And we tend to get in these affinity groups and we forget instead of realizing that we need to work together to get those results done, right? You need to work with me, I need to work with you. And yes, we all have the common enemy, really, right? And to know that as my identity as a black trans max person, my story and my journey and the things that I'm going through are no more different than what you're going through. Maybe if you were a gay man or a black trans woman or whatever, right? We all have our things within our communities that we battle that's different, right? From each other. Yes, correct. But no one problem is bigger than us working together to actually go against these systems. The systems is the problem, right? And it's pitting us against each other so we don't build community and overtake these systems, right? And so I think I personally don't have a conflict with anyone. I don't know if anybody has a conflict with me. If you out there, you listen, you like, Shawn, I got beef with you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. But, I'm always here to uplift anybody who is working towards bettering themselves and bettering the community that they're part of. So,
And that's the first thing. You said community. And I think we need to highlight that part. Community is community. We are different. Your journey is different. My journey is different. Shane's journey is different. But we have got to stop dividing the community. Like, I feel like a lot of times we do more, and especially in the LGBTQ plus community, we do more of this against each other in the community than doing this and actually coming together. And I feel like instead of fighting each other or trying to say my gay experience that is a lot more than your bi experience or your trans experience or this, we all have experiences. So we have to get to a place to where we can understand each other. And sometimes that's just talking amongst each other, but it's all about community. And it leads right back into my next question, because we were talking earlier about you finding your happiness. And I know you had talked about it on one of your, yet again, here I go back to stalking your social media. But when you, one of your posts that you have posted, you said that one of the best things that happened to you was having top surgery. And I think that's a beautiful thing. That's a wonderful thing. But I think also, too, talking about why it was the best thing is the most beautiful gift that you can give someone, because there's a lot of people that sit out here, especially now listening to our podcast, and they're going back and forth between surgery, or they're pre-op and thinking about having surgery, or they're about to have surgery. And I think a lot of times, I know me, getting real personal on this one, but me personally, I have always went back and forth about whether I wanted to or didn't want to, whether I felt comfortable doing it or not, or why am I doing it in the first place? Is it for me, or is it to assimilate, to feel like I'm finally somebody else? I don't know. But first, I want to say I appreciate you for being open to sharing why and how it affected you. Thank you. And would you share it so others can hear?
About how it affected me?
Yes.
Oh, well, I can't speak for anybody else. I can only speak for myself. And it was such a liberating moment for me, because and I say this all the time, if I was just going to lay my breast out on the table and get to cutting them off myself, they was coming off. So I've always felt this unhappiness with my body. I've always felt this frumpiness with my body. And it also goes back to verbal abuse as a child. I was never affirmed in my body, regardless if I liked it or not. My mom never said, I was always told you're fat or you're ugly or like all of these things. So it was like, it was on top of how I already felt about myself. And then I'm like, well, I already feel this way about myself. Now you make me feel like shit. Excuse me. Can I curse on here?
We're not going to stop
fine.
you. You can go.
Okay. Okay. So and I already feel like shit. So now I am shit. Right. And so for a very long time, I walked around with my head down, looking at my shoes. I just didn't like what I saw in the mirror at all. In that moment that I got, you couldn't tell me shit. The moment I came up off that table, I was like, what we doing next? Where we go? Where we going? Right. And that was that moment where I was like, yo, this is who I was always supposed to be. Right. And it was even before just medically like testosterone. This was just my chest. I could never have started testosterone and I would have still been happy knowing that, yo, I no longer have to walk with my head down. It took a long time for me to keep my head up, though. I'm not gonna lie, because even then I still was like this, but because I was so used to it, I was so used to being, I was bullied. And my mom was my biggest bully. And so I was so used to holding my head down that I didn't know what it felt like. But now, even now, 12 years later, you can't tell me shit. You cannot tell me nothing.
All right.
Right. And it's a liberating feeling. I hate when folks say, are you going to regret it? Or why are you mutilating your body? No, I am being who I want to be and how I want to represent myself in my own skin. I have the right to do that. And so does anybody else. Right. So
Freedom for everybody.
That's the question.
I love it. No, it's really powerful. I'm curious, as you hear that and you think about over the last several years, when I think one of the most fascinating, and I love it, the vast spectrum of ways of being in one's body, right? The different dimensions of identity and expression that have unfolded and continue to unfold all the time. Is that something that you're in community, like with other Black trans men, are you also in conversation about? There are now so many different ways of being in the world. And what's wonderful is that surgery is an option. It's one that some people will take, some people will not take. But what's great is that is not the definition. And are you finding that at conflict at all in some of the conversation? Or do you find, because I find generationally among older populations, even among older trans community members that I connect with, that sometimes it is very frustrating for them, that they don't understand. For them, it was a big part of their journey, and they haven't quite wrapped their heads around younger generations whose gender fluidity or gender presentation or these sort of areas that they're non-binary and these sort of other, again, wonderful spectrum of places to be, that I think was always the evolution of the conversation around queer, which is what I loved about it. But that it sometimes comes in conflict with communities. And as you're working with Black trans men, do you ever hear this sort of conflict about kind of a fixing of a normalization of what it was to be, if you will, a Black trans man, and then this sort of openness of identities that now we have on the table?
Absolutely. And it's one of the things I always say is we're not monolithic. We were not meant to be the same. Human beings are not meant to be the same. Trans men experience or not. We are not the same. And yes, I've heard that from a lot of older Black trans men of you can't do this, you can't do that. I heard a lot of, especially when I first began to transition, and I had to really find my own way. And I make sure that I say that all the time to folks on the show. When folks say, oh, this may be different from what people typically think or do, and say, so what? Shit, our experiences are not the same. Yo, whatever you do is what you do. And it says as I age, right? And don't get me wrong, I don't understand everything either. It's not meant for me to understand because it's not my journey, right? But it's a privilege. I feel like I'm holding a privilege of being able to open up the gates for people to express themselves. Why? Because I've been visible, right? And I've been opened up doors so that younger folks underneath me can have these different expressions of who they are as people, right? We all should be able to express who we are, trans or not, trans identified or not, LGBTQ plus or not. We all should be able to express ourselves in the way that we want to. It's not necessarily tied to race or gender, right? You should be free to do whatever the hell you want to do within your own body, within means, right? You're not hurting anybody, right? You should be able to express yourself in any way that you feel. And in the moment that people realize, that's where the liberation comes from, right? So
I just want to amplify it. I want to grab that soundbite and just sit with that. And I'm just going to replay it over and over and over and over and over and over again. But we're going to take a quick short break here. So stick with us. We'll be back in a minute to share some fun facts about Shawn during a speed round of questions. Ooh. So stay with us here at Power Beyond Pride. Welcome back to Power Beyond Pride, a queer change-making podcast. I'm Shane Lukas here with my fantastic, talented, and what should we say? What should we say? You look like a chanteuse tonight. So I feel like my chanteuse, Mattie Bynum.
I like that. We can go with it. I don't know what the hell it means, but it sounds sexy. So go ahead.
We'll go. It's the long hair. You're wearing the long hair. It's working perfect for me. I love it. It's fantastic. We've had such a wonderful conversation tonight with Shawn Aaron. We're so glad you're joining us here from the West Coast. Shawn Aaron is the founder of Dem Bois, which is an amazing program and podcast.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I can say that for sure because I have been binge listening to the podcast, and I can't wait to have more conversations with Shawn later on. But Shawn, before we go into our speed round, I definitely want to give you a chance just to let people know, how can people help and sign up and volunteer and work with Dem Bois? How does that happen?
Oh, that's a good question. So number one thing to help Dem Bois is to donate to Dem Bois. And so we are building our gender-affirming surgery grant fund. And so that's one way to help us. We're also looking to recruit more board members. So we're looking for folks that have experience with boards, have fundraising experience, networking experience that could join us. We have some dynamic leaders on the board, and we're looking for a couple of more folks. So that's another way to help us out. So also with the podcast, you can share the podcast out. You can leave comments. You can actually text message us live while you are listening to an episode. And I actually get that right on my phone so I can interact with folks if you want to interact with Dem Bois in that way too. So.
Awesome. Well, we've gotten to know a lot about you, Shawn, and not nearly enough. So we're hoping you're going to be back here for a future episode. But for this episode, we are excited because now it's time for speed round. Now, this is where we get to ask you some questions and you don't get any time to think about it. You just have to give us that first answer that comes into your head. Are you ready?
Oh, I said authentic, being authentic. You challenging me.
Well, get ready to be
I'm ready.
very authentic, sir. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's do it.
What's one thing you do first thing in the morning to get yourself started for the day?
Brush my teeth.
Mm.
There we go. That's a good one.
I mean,
That's the
good
first thing I
breath.
do is brush my teeth.
Yeah. Can't be fun.
So my question for you is, people may not know, but you have another business called Mr. Scents, and I want to know, what's your favorite scent?
Ooh, my favorite scent. I have a scent of incense. I have two of my favorites. One is called Black Women, and the other one is Obama. Those are my best sellers. Those are the ones that I burn regularly myself. So
You heard that, Mr. Scents, and there it is. It's a Black Women and Obama. Perfect.
All right. Early bird or night owl?
night owl, like
What's
a
a
real
beef?
night owl.
You're a real night owl?
Yeah, like going to bed 4 or 5 a.m. night owl.
What's your favorite part about staying up that late?
Ain't nobody else up. It's quiet.
Yes.
I can
Get
go
the
out.
most accomplished from 1 a.m.
Sometimes I do. I put my earphones on. I can walk the dog at 2 a.m. Ain't nobody outside. It's quiet. Everybody's sleeping on my building. Yeah, nobody bothering me.
I'm telling you, your calling is 100% 2 to 4 a.m. jazz, like NPR, like
Yes.
late night.
Quiet storm.
Oh,
All of that.
yes.
I'm telling
Yes.
you, like, you are an amazing social movement leader, but I'm telling you, you should have a second, like, you have to come up with a good DJ name, and then, like, in the late nights, you need to be like,
Nice.
I'm DJ, I don't know, I'm DJ Smooth, and I'm playing the
DJ
latest from
Nightwalker,
Edwin
because
Joe.
you walk your dog at night. DJ
Nightwalker. Nightwalker
Yeah.
sounds like a
Nice.
horror movie a little
Nice.
bit, though.
Nice.
It works for the
But I
voice.
say, I'm just saying stunning, and it makes sense.
My
Night owl, right there.
Nice. My nickname that was given to me some years ago when I did a performance at the club, I was Mr. President. So maybe I can say DJ.
Mr. President. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I would
it.
definitely vote for
It's
you
your late
more.
night with Mr. President. It's your
think-
late
and
night
that's what-
jazz with Mr. President. I'm saying we're gonna work this out. We're gonna workshop this.
Yes, we
Right.
got to. I could definitely see it. Late night jazz, R&B. Yeah, I see it.
So in that voice, so now you have to do it in that. Now you have to do it in your jazziest voice. You have to do it in your radio voice. What's a piece of advice you often give?
So you want me to do the voice, really?
Yeah.
Oh, of course I do. Yeah.
Okay.
This is very much a genuine ask.
So my best bit of advice I tell people is to put yourself first. You can't give to other folks. So you make sure that your cup is full first and people get your overflow. You can't pour into other people from an empty cup. So that's usually my bit of advice.
I love
That
it.
was a
And
voice.
I feel like the radio show has to be called Overflow. Overflow with DJ President. I'm saying right there. That's what
Ooh.
I'm saying.
Love it.
I'm gonna keep it clean, but yes, that is a good name. It has multifacets and multi meanings. All right. So knowing
It's getting hot in here is what I think Mattie's saying is it's getting hot in here with all this like low late night jazz talk that we got all of it.
sexy man. What did y'all expect? I got a beautiful white chocolate, beautiful dark chocolate. Like I can see it everywhere. Look here. Let me stop. No, okay. Let me rephrase that. I do not have men everywhere. I just thought about how that sounded. No, I do not. No.
And that's okay if you did. Hey,
Yeah, it's okay if you did.
That's your
Well,
journey.
I'm no longer in my 20s, so I will say we retired majority of the men. But I am sitting between two sexy men. And to the sexy men on the West Coast, which is pretty much going to answer itself at this point, summer or winter, which is your favorite?
Winter.
Really?
What about winter?
Because I like to wear long sleeve shirts and hoodies.
Okay.
Can't do that in the summertime.
You can. You be
Okay, nice
funky,
little
but you
button
can't.
up. Yeah, that's true. I don't want to be funky. I said the first thing I do is brush my teeth. Why would I want to be funky?
No.
Okay, for a date, you give roses or a massage?
A massage. I'm very good at massages. So that might be it.
Good answer. That's a good answer.
And I realized when you give flowers, not everybody have a vase for the flowers. So I stopped giving flowers.
However, this is a plug for Mr. Scent with the hand-painted glass incense burners that could also double as a vase if you don't have a vase. Just don't burn incense at the same time.
Yeah, true.
It could work.
I like that. I like this public service announcement that ended up in the middle of that. That was very good.
What's a small mischievous thing you have done in a relationship?
Whoa. Wait, what? A small mischievous thing that I've done?
Yes,
Wait a minute. I need some clarification on that.
Shane, do you have clarification on that one? Because I think the question is very.
Do I have clarification? I didn't write that question. Mattie wrote that question. What did you want to know, Mattie? What do you want to know, Mattie?
Well,
Mattie wants to know, I think, it could be a sexy thing. It could be a sexy thing. What's the thing that you have done that surprised the other person?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Can we come back to that one?
You know what? We'll come back to that the next time you show up on an episode. That's what we're going to do. We're going to come up to We're going to come back to that. See, there we go. That's the thing, is that we're going to do that. So my question is, what does power beyond pride mean to you?
Power beyond pride is living your best self with pride.
Okay.
I love it.
I love that. Well, Shawn, we thank you so much for coming on the show today. We are running at the end of the show, but once again, we thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Dem Bois Inc. That's DEM BOIS INC. You can follow us on YouTube with the same name. You can also follow me on my own personal Instagram, which I'm going to plan on building out soon. And that's Shawn Aaron 81. And you can also follow us on our website, dembois.org. That's DEMBOIS.org. Yeah. And you can catch Dem Bois podcast on all listening platforms, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, all of that.
Well, thank you.
Well, Mattie's got this.
I was just saying thank you again for coming. Yeah, that was all.
We were just lost in your voice, Shawn. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was just literally luxuriating, is what I'm saying. So I want to thank you for being with us today while I luxuriate in your voice and your vocal talent there. And everyone, again, can follow Shawn on all those channels that he shared. I'm your co-host, Shane Lukas, he, him, his, and I'm the owner and strategist for Great Idea. I'm a lifelong harm reductionist. And not only do I hide Kit Kats, and now I have to hide them even more because Mattie now knows that I hide them, and that's going to happen. But I also buy them on road trips a lot. That's the only time I buy them. I only buy them on road trips, and I buy them to store away as secret treats. So that's my thing. You can find me on multiple social channels, typically under Great Ideas handles, or you can go to shanelukas.com. So to greatidea.com or shanelukas.com.
And I am your co-host, Mattie Bynum. Like I said, I am the loudest one in the room typically, and I'm okay with being that loudest person. And you can find me at Mattie Simone 737 on Instagram. And you can also find me at Mattie Bynum on Facebook. Please remember to subscribe and get your friends, families, lovers, partners, anybody, even your coworkers. Tell them to subscribe. Listen to this while you on lunch. To Power Beyond Pride. Now, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our website as well, powerbeyondpride.com.
Power Beyond Pride is a project from A Great Idea, a queer-owned design and content agency. Learn more about them at agreatidea.com.
This episode was produced by the fabulous Shane Lukas. I, Mattie Bynum, is the project developer. Our editor is Jared Redding, and we have the support by the amazing Ian Wilson, who puts up with all of our crazy shenanigans.
Mattie and I are both part of this podcast awesome host team, and we are glad to invite you to send in your questions and comments at powerbeyondpride.com for our monthly Reply All episode, where we take your questions as well as talk about the latest in headlines.
Check out our new episode each week. We look forward to queer change making with you next time. Thank you again from all of us here at Power Beyond Pride.
Thank you.